So welcome everyone. Today we are here sharing our effective practice with supported employment agency programme, and I have my colleagues from City College Norwich here today. We've got Paula Ottaway, who is their head of area. She's joined with Adam Savaz and Sheila Brown, who are the programme leads, as well as Chris Cademy, who is our funding expert and supports us with our funding on the programme. So please do feel free to answer questions throughout, but there'll be an opportunity as well to have some discussion at the end. So today we will cover our develop model and the journey from a project through to the agency that you will see today. Our student outcomes, and the key point of this is about the sustainable employment, how that's important to have the preparation for adult life plan, and our offer and what that actually means in detail, so that hopefully you can look at that and pick that up and take that away for you. So to give you guidance in setting up an agency, as well as looking at our student profile and the suitability of the learners for our agencies to overcome their barriers. We will look at our staffing profile, employer engagement and how we do that, even during our current times that we're experiencing. And we will also look at the funding side of it. And to close, we will look at our top tips for you, our successes of the supported employment agency. So I'm sure everyone is aware of the Education and Training Foundation and the Excellence Gateway. I've popped you in a couple of links there. We are still working hard for the sector in sharing our effective practice through Western Derby and Norwich College, when we're looking at our support for people, the curriculum and the community. So please do visit those links there, because there is still lots going on within the community to share effective practice. What I would also like to highlight, and you know I do this on every webinar, but it's really important, is around our leadership discussion, where each of the principals and CEOs, and for us at the college, Corianne has set aside some time for a one-to-one discussion for leadership around special educational needs, and we do that jointly when we're looking at strategic vision to provide support to the practitioner. So that's, you know, people like yourselves and managers, if you've got ALS teams that actually need some guidance and thought and action around the strategic vision, then we work with you and talk about actually what is it that we can do to work together, as well as a peer one-to-one discussion, leadership discussion with leaders to discuss a culture of excellence. Talking to Corianne actually about what your needs are as far as working with employers, parents and the community. So this offer is actually really important and key in actually changing the culture of SEND. And to book this, you can do that through either just contacting me or through that email address, and we'll work and plan a time around you. Now, this isn't joining a big leadership discussion in lots of us working together. This is actually personalized for your needs. So if you're thinking about doing this, well, actually, you know, contact me or the mailbox there to talk about actually what is it that your focus and how is it that we can work together to better enable SEND excellence. So please take that opportunity forward. So in terms of today, some questions to prompt planning when you're thinking about an agency. What might you think about? Well, you need to have a local department when you're thinking about how you work with your Department of Work in Pensions, and are they really in a good place when they're supporting learning disability employment? You need to think about your local authority and where are they with funding and supporting the provision. That's absolutely essential, as well as the pathway plan, but learner readiness and the expectation when you're thinking about the employability skills for your learners. and your structure. So if you haven't got an agency model plan, when you're thinking about what's your structure like at the moment, is it able to flex, to be able to adapt itself, and from small acorns into something where you can actually have a sustainable employment agency model. Um, we pride ourselves on our job coaching with that they are trained in systematic training instruction when you're looking at that. So do you have staff trained within your organization? And are you currently working with employers, with good links with your employers that are disability confident and aware where you could place your learners? And finally, when we're looking at that, when you're looking at entry level provision all the way through to different levels of work placements, how well are you connected to work with your employments, and even in with the current climate? Hopefully this will inform strategic and operational next steps. So think about the bigger picture, and then operationally, how are you going to put that into place? And my colleagues on the call today will help and guide you through that. So I think we're passing over to Paula now, if that's okay. Thank you, Paula.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that you can all hear me. Um, as Elaine said, Mint comes within the Inclusive Learning Department, which I head up. And it is a supported employment agency known as Mint. Quite often people say, what does Mint stand for? It doesn't. It was just the name that it was given when it was first developed. Basically because it was initially based in the old Barclays Bank building in Norwich, I think. So I think that's how it got its term Mint. We previously were located in the city centre, and for a number of reasons, last year we relocated back to the college, but in a slightly quieter sector of the college, which has easy access to the main street into the city centre. And I think what's key with regards to Mint and the employment agency is that we have a key ethos and branding. So as you can see, the Mint branding, black and green, is different to the college. It stands out as a different offer for young people, and I think that is really key in having an agency model, because it's not a college course, and I think that's really key. So the students have to see it as different, parents and carers need to see it as different, and employers need to see it as different. So it is that agency provision model. To sort of look at the Mint overview, I think obviously site and location are really important. Although we've moved back onto the college site, as I say, we're in a separate building because it's important that the students see this as a step on from whatever course that they were on previously. We don't just get college learners, so we have a key referral process. Now that can come from course leaders, so we may have a situation where a student is working on a course, and for lots of reasons, it could be mental health, it could be learning, that student isn't getting the most out of their course, so that they can be referred across. Or it may be that they've got to the end of their course and it's looking at next steps. As soon as that referral process is made and there is a form that people can complete, they will be assigned to a job coach. So there'll be a one-to-one meet. And there's some key questions that we ask our young people, which we'll go on to later in the discussion. But as long as they meet those criteria, they'll be assigned a job coach. And that person will work with them one-to-one to really tailor a clear program and support that is bespoke for that person. Every young person is different. The key aim, as Elaine has said, is that we are looking at getting those young people sustained employment. It is essential that that's what we're working to. That can be different for everybody. It might be part-time, might be full-time, but it will be different for everybody. And there are different timescales involved within that. some people obviously will be with Mint for a full year working on different workshops. Some people will get employment within the year that they're with them, and then they get support when they're in the workplace. I think the other thing that we have developed over the years is really key links with employers, and that employer support is essential. It's really, really important that you have the buy-in from the employers, and I know the team have worked really hard on that and really hard to get that those links with employers, and also parents, carers. You can't, you know, for a lot of our learners who have additional needs, that link with parents and carers to get that holistic approach to what we are doing is essential. So that sort of gives you an overview, and obviously Sheila and Adam will be able to give you a real insight into the key elements of the Mint programme. So where did we start? So in the first year, and I think we started 10-11, so 2010. The project started with a target of 5 young people, to getting 5 young people into sustained employment. That was the target that was set. It was something that from the get-go, it had positive learner engagement. I think it surprised everybody. And actually, by the end of the year, we'd got 16 into sustained employment. And that, obviously, as you can see from the target of 5, was a much more than we expected. We obviously started with work experience placements, trying to get young people to get some work experience. We promoted the agency through business breakfasts at the college, so inviting employers in to promote it, to talk about it, so they understood what we were trying to offer. Obviously, we looked at what the service offered and the fact that we could actually plug a gap at those entry level positions. And I think that that's really, really key. Quite often with a lot of jobs is that somebody will come in at an entry level and move on very quickly. For a lot of our learners, that's not the case. They will stay in those areas, which means that employers don't have to retrain all the time. We look at specific sectors, and therefore there is a snowball effect within that. Hospitality, care, retail, obviously challenging at the moment. We do recognise that, but that we do look at those specific sectors. And obviously, the Department of Work and Pensions buy-in and support supports the whole programme as well. So how do we get those learners ready within the college for Mint? And I think it's absolutely key, as Elaine said, we have a pathway to sort of plan to getting students into employment, and there is a initial assessment for Mint, but as a college we also have clear lines of sight with regards to preparing our young people. So you can see on the slide at the moment there are 3 key areas: the red, the purple and the yellow. We've got an independent living, so our most complex needs learners will come into college, onto courses that eventually will take them through to adult services, developing their independent living skills, but probably will be going into day services within the adult sector. We then have a vocational pathway. So for learners who are coming into college, they will do courses within inclusive learning in the hope that they will then continue to further study within the mainstream part of the college. So that might be within construction, it might be within art or hospitality, but they work on a vocational pathway. We then have an employability pathway, and that is very, very comprehensive, with real sort of clear steps that learners can take year on year to develop their employability skills, to develop their understanding of employment, and to move that either into voluntary work or paid employment. So those are sort of the key 3 areas that we look at as a college. within that employment pathway, we have a number of courses, and I think that's sort of key, that the slide that you're seeing at the moment just really gives you an overview of the different types of courses that we offer that will build towards eventually heading towards Mint. And each year they will pick up more and more skills, get more experience, go from enterprises within college to doing work experience outside of college. We do have a supported internship. So we have a classroom at the local hospital, and we have classroom at Norse, which is the county's facilities. And I'm really pleased to say that at the present moment in time, all of our learners are on that supported internship, including at the hospital and working in the hospital, doing their rotations. But all of those lead to the supported employment agency.
Thank you, Paul. And I think we're now moving over to Adam and Sheila.
Good afternoon, this is Sheila here. Going through what we look at as the Mint model, there are 5 main stages that a learner can access. Some will do all, some will do parts of, but obviously they will all do the referral stage. And then learners from there are booked onto what we call an employment profile, where we get to know them a little bit deeper, and I then assign them a job coach within the team. They can also access our pre-employment project, which Adam will explain a bit more in detail about in a moment, where they involves work experience. We offer employment workshops. We were running them online, doing working from home. We're now doing them face-to-face with 100% attendance, which is brilliant. There's everything about employability skills, looking at job searching applications, interview techniques, what group interviews may look like. We haven't at the moment got employers coming in because they're obviously very busy in other areas, but we offer them a wide spectrum of their journey into employment and build on those skills. And we also look at employment placement. They could do this through a pre-employment project or as a standalone with their job coach. Work experience, it's no easy feat at the moment in time, but we're not giving up. And we have employers that are saying, we will speak to you in January and revisit the whole situation again. So there are opportunities there. And from there, our ultimate aim from 1 to 5 is the ultimate stage you should get to. They can leapfrog the other bits in between or do them all. And it's to offer ongoing support to sustainable employment. This would be up to 12 months worth of employment in work support as well as. From there, we have many unique selling points, which we're very proud of. We are a local provision set up by City College 10 years ago. August of this year, we are fully functioning, which is brilliant. And we work with learners from all across Norwich. We work with a niche age group, which has also been identified as the growing number of unemployed as well. Again, it's not easy because they've got competition, they've got challenges, some other people who sadly it's looking for jobs themselves. So we know we keep going hard on it. They need to have a barrier to work, to have work into paid employment. And as mentioned, it can be a learning difficulty, physical disability, mental health. There's a whole range of things. And we offer this free employment service to the young people and the employers. So we can provide the support into employment and in the employment itself, and provide employment to the employer to identify support needs. So we are a free, buy one, get one free, we always like to add as. We have 12 months pre-employment. We're operational for 51 weeks of the year, and then they can have up to 12 months of post-employment when they're in position. So we can keep in touch with them by whichever way is suitable with the employer, with the young person, by text, by calls, by visits into the employment, which is always our most enjoyable part of our job as well, to see them actually in the workplace and achieving and hearing great things what they're doing. And as I said, we are a rolling provision. We don't go with the academic year. We go month by month. So we can enrol any month of the year, and they will have up to 12 months of support into employment within that time. And then, of course, in work support, it can be adapted to meet the employers and the young person's needs. So we may find ourselves working weekends or early evenings or early mornings, just to meet the needs of what that young person is doing in their job, and whatever meets the needs of the employer is the most important thing to keep that in sustained employment. For a young person to be referred to Mint, they must have our barriers that we've mentioned before. We do require them to be referred by a professional organisation or person, so that it's somebody who actually knows that young person and can complete that form with the young person. Obviously, in the working from home period, we were having referrals form coming in very different ways, whatever people could do, so long as I had spoke to the young person, they were aware of what we do. The criteria, not in education, training or employment, that's quite a nice, simple, basic statement there. The other barriers around it can be built around it. And of course, perhaps the most important thing is they want to actually access paid employment rather than just because the job centre have told them they've got to, or mum and dad have told them they've got to. If the need is there for them to want to do it, we can certainly work with them to achieve that. And obviously within that niche age range as we've shown before. And again, there's the barriers there for learning difficulty, disability. Mental health issue has been a large number of referrals over the years. We have found recently in the last 18 months that the provision for mental health for young people has improved. So we don't have quite so many referrals from them, or we have them as they've come out of counselling, support or treatment and so forth. So it's much more of a wider barrier to work. Be able to travel independently. Norfolk is fairly rural. The bus services are not the best at times, so we work with what they have. So we'll help them travel independently if they're not able to do it at this moment in time. So we can do the travel training with them, so that eventually they can go into work unsupported after agreed period with the job coach. So we may say, right, we'll come to the induction with you, or we'll come to your reviews, or sometimes online training. We can go in and sit with them and do that. So that takes one less person for the employment workforce to do that. So everything is working around the young person's needs and the employer's support needs as well as. To hand you over to my colleague, Adam.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our pre-employment courses, which provide supportive work experience along with a general overview of the expectations of employment in a sector-specific area. And these include admin, care, retail, customer service, and hospitality. We have 2 members of the Mint team lead on the workshop delivery, and they also visit the work placement as well. So the theory sessions are run in our training suite, which Paula mentioned. They're carefully situated on the edge of the main college campus. It's less busy and quiet there. The training suite comes fully equipped with up-to-date computers, whiteboard, large desk for the learners to study in. All the learners have a personalised timetable and a high level of support from 2 job coaches at Mint. And they also go to the work placement. So for example, a job coach manages certain employers to help build up that rapport. A job coach would also visit the learners and observe them in the workplace and to complete a work placement diary, which focuses largely on SMART targets set by the learner and supported from the employer as well. The work placement diary is completed each shift by the learner, and this outlines key tasks on each shift and a feedback section for the employer to complete, which is signed off and dated. And we also find this is a handy placement booklet for young people to refer to before interviews and even taking into an actual paid interview situation as well. So all pre-employments are 3 days a week, totaling 15 hours. This includes spending 1 day a week in our training suite and 2 days a week out in the actual work placement. And the group sizes typically vary between 8 and 10 learners. So the workshops typically cover sort of subject areas such as customer service training. We have a local agreement with British Red Cross that come in and do first aid training for free, which is really hands-on and beneficial. We look at contracts of employment at work, team building and communication, job searching skills, confidence building. We focus on budgeting and finance and how to manage a wage slip, etc., and look at that. Health and safety, but we're lucky enough to work with a local construction training companies, and we take the young people off site and they get to do some practical health and safety situations there as well. Interview preparation and tips, what the employer expects at work. Before COVID, we were getting HR managers come in and actually do mock interviews and talk a little bit about what they expect from employees. And we work closely locally with Barclays Bank for their life skills, which is again an off-site visit as well. We do work with a local hotel, it's quite prestigious hotels locally as well, and they do tours to explain a little bit about how they deliver outstanding customer service as well. So the possible progression after a pre-employment, Well, the general aim of a pre-employment is to give each learner a real experience of work and aims to equip them with current employability skills. Many of the learners have been successful in gaining employment or apprenticeships directly from work experience, which highlights again the value of a pre-employment and work experience. Can I have the next slide, please? So Mint offers key learners workshop training in several areas, and they include maths and English. So this is functional skills, and these range from entry level to level 2. These sessions last for about 2.5 hours, and they run once a week for 22 weeks typically. We also provide travel training to get used to public transport. This is also good for when young people go to interviews, for work experience, or for their first day of employment. Job searching and completing application forms, how to really sort of sell yourself and get those right. Communication skills at work, how to interview effectively, and the interview, again, the interview process has changed largely in the last 6 months. There's been a lot of Zoom and Skype and interviews like that, so we've been upskilling young people with that. Mock interviews where we get employers come in and the young people get dressed up and they look all smart with their CVs, and we conduct those as real as possible. The expectations of work, digital safety, how to stay safe online, being aware of what you put on social media, and once it's out there, it can be out there for good sometimes. Mindset for work, a big thing about being positive. We're all fans of that at Mint, and it's always, you know, looking to the positives and not giving up, always working hard towards your goals and targets. As I mentioned, we have British Red Cross come in and they do standalone training. The NHS come in and they do stress and wellbeing workshops, how to manage that in the workplace. We do manual handling. This is led by our health and safety team at college, quite an interactive session, and they get a certificate there, and introduction to administration, along with money management, introduction to hospitality, and we also do a level 2 food hygiene accredited qualification as well. We could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So the key points of Mint is really ensuring employment is the main focus of their next step. Sheila just touched on that earlier. So we do spend quite a bit of time getting to know the young people, finding out, is employment their key driver, their key target? This is achieved by having a robust referral, initial assessment, frequent contact and smart target setting in a timely manner. So keeping on top of that as well. An EHCP is not essential, as we've got there. Many of the young people do, but not all of them do as well. And I touched on the wanting to gain employment. So we touched on the sort of learning disability difficulty, but mental health has been a growing area that we've found in the last 3 or 4 years. That's been sort of a growing trend. And if we could have the next slide, thank you. Super. So what we found is a combination of training workshops, work experience and smart targets helps increase the learner's employability prospects. So every time the learner undertakes an activity, it's recorded on the ILP alongside the guided learning hours spent on that particular activity. So for example, like a one-to-one work experience or workshop information is logged and the goal setting is recorded. And each job coach has access to that learner's file as well, because we work in quite a small, tight team as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Mint is very individualized, really individualized, and can offer many ways from one-to-one, and it focuses on you know, what the learner wants to achieve. So it's really individualized and tailored support. So we've got the referral form, an employment profile, weekly one-to-ones with a job coach, which generally last about an hour, but they can go over that time as well. We offer a pre-employment provision, which I talked about, which is 12 weeks, employability workshops, which run throughout the year on core areas of the workplace. And then encompassed in that is the maths and English. Although if a learner's got a level 2 or equivalent, they don't have to attend that. Before COVID, we were doing things like board games and board nights. So what they are is the board games that young people wanted to do. They wanted to make friends, they didn't know how to, so we suggested that, and that worked so well, and young people have formed really good friendships and improved their communication skills. We're also doing a lot of outdoor conservation activity days. These are currently put on hold at the moment, but we're looking to hopefully re-pick those up in the new year. We've got those strong links over the last 10 years with these providers, and we're keeping in touch with them, so we'll pick those up when it's a bit safer to do so for those activities. Work experience, we're still offering that. We have employers come in to do guest speakers, so it could be an employer that's worked their way up in a business and how they got there, and it can be quite inspiring. But we also invite young people back that have got jobs to come in and do talks to our young people, which I personally think is the most powerful tool we can provide, is when the young people come back and say, I was where you were a year ago, now I'm here. And we also offer in-work support for up to a year. That's physically going into the workplace, working with the employer and the young person, so that job is sustainable. So the above examples are not all compulsory to attend. So for example, some learners will not attend the functional skills, as I mentioned. Mint runs optional activities such as conservation and outdoor activities and games nights. Pre-employments also may not be always suitable for the learner. However, we do expect the learners to attend all one-to-one appointments for their job with their job coach, undertake some form of work experience or taster, and complete the employability workshops as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. As they show, those our Mint team. We are headed up by Paula, and then Adam and I are the two coordinators, Adam with a pre-employment focus, myself with job coach coordinator post, and then we have 5 job coaches that work. We all work as part of a team, a main team. Have a caseload of up to 20 young people, each of us individually, and then obviously we then, as people go off into work or new referrals come in, that can rise and fall. We all come from varying background, from Norfolk County Council advisors, myself from education and SEND as a massive one, DWP, Remploy, and 3 of us within the team have current up-to-date TSI training qualifications. Lots of experience within the various sectors, which is really great when we're allocating young people to the job coaches, because we match them up to the job coaches' professionalism and their specialism. As I say, the job coach caseload can fluctuate depending on the referrals, the times of year, and obviously sort of people going into work as well, and we're balancing things like that. But as a whole, we are very effective. We're very proud of our team, and we feel we work very effectively in these very challenging times, and we've still got outcomes. So that's the Mint team. The ways that we can support them into, as we've touched on them, in sort of many ways. The job coach there will get to know the learner. We'll look at them, whether they, talk with the young person, make sure they have a say in their plan. We don't just make an action plan and say, this is what you're going to do. We'll always advise and guide and encourage, and occasionally a little nudge to be a bit braver. We set goals with them. We will encourage them just to go for it. We create a CV and covering letter. It's got to be a main thing we do with them. Without that, your applications are just not there. Generic CVs, generic covering letters, saved electronically, can be adapted and worked on every time. They go on to the workshops when they're ready to do the workshops. Some are out there ready to go, ready to run straight away. Others a little bit more slower paced with us because they're a bit more anxious. They've not got much experience. Age as well, if they're at the lower end of our age range, that itself is a current barrier. And we can apply for jobs in different formats. Much of it now is done online. So for those like myself who are not totally IT savvy, it's a challenge, but we're all learning together. We have Zoom interviews happening at the moment in time as well, and we can also support them with interviews as well. Lots of our young people are getting interviews in these challenging times, and we are supporting them in several of them as well. The commitment to us, as we've mentioned, we made it very clear at the beginning, we're not a college course, we are an employment provision. And they are definitely expected to attend at least 1 appointment per week. And then we mix up the format from there according to the young person's needs and their employability skills and what they need to work on. So they will do the workshops, the work experience and the functional skills where it is required. Thank you very much. And then in employment, of course, we support the young person in employment that continues. We said we can support up to 12 months. It could be online training with them, it could be physical training. We have some Royal Mail posts coming up where a couple of job coaches are going to go in and do the training with the young person initially, the induction. We can help them to learn new tasks if the employer would like to upskill them. As we've said, we're a free provision. And we also support the employer. So if there are identified needs there, we work with them and we try and identify someone within the workforce as well who could keep a watchful eye over our young learners as well and just feedback to us. We can support the employer with reviews and just making sure that that sustained employment stays there and everybody gets the support that we are happy to provide as well.
Thank you. So Mint has helped the learners achieve employment in varied levels and sectors. So the success of this partnership with employers has not been an overnight process. It's taken time to build. Initially, Mint would approach an employer with success and use this as a case study for approaching the next employer in the same sector, which in turn creates sort of a bit of a snowball effect. So as I said, it did take time. We're quite lucky at Mint that we've got a team of staff that have all been here a long time. And when you kind of get that consistency and you've got staff that are working with employers, for example, there's employers I've been working for 9 or 10 years now, and it's lovely because actually, you build that trust, you build that rapport, and you have that strong relationship with the employers. And across the board, we've found that with lots of our team members, where they are building those strong links and they're kind of leads with those employers. And you can see we've got a real range on the slide there of different employers that we work with. And the levels, some young people have got real gifts for certain areas that really excel, even in areas like accountancy. We've helped a young person get quite a senior role within accountancy just due to their incredible retaining of information and numbers and numerical skills. If we could have the next slide on there, please. So the employers also vary in size. So Mint works with some really large national employers along with small businesses. Feedback from employers in what makes Mint different from other providers is they feel really valued. They feel really valued because they have frequent work placement visits and in-work job coaching support. Mint also places the right learner at the right time. We know if we get it wrong or if we're not placing learners in the right employer, they might not come back to us. We also provide a pen picture and a CV. So a pen picture is a document outlining the learner's hopes, the aspirations from that work placement, along with information on their sort of support needs and how the employer can best manage and support that as well. The initial meeting of the learner and a tour of the placement. They like to meet the young people and give them a show round. And the work experience booklets really involve the learner, the employer and the job coach. And we go in, we're actively involved in that process. So there's quite a lot that go in. The reason we know this works as well is that we do, on placements, we do give employer feedback forms to fill out. So that really captures what the young person, what their experience was like with them, what they enjoyed about Mint. Is there anything we could improve on? Because it's always about improving and adapting as well. Thank you.
So it's over to me now. I'd just like to pick up on this slide briefly, our previous experience of working with employers. But as Adam's noted, it is about the snowball effect. And once you have a positive experience of working with an employer, it sets the pace for engaging with further employers. And I know that as a sector, this is your experience as well when you're talking to an employer for the first time about actually placing a young person with learning needs. And when they're talking about, well, I need to spend extra time, and our response would be, well, you would need a workplace mentor. And here are just a few examples just to share with you. Excuse me. When we talk to employers, we do talk about the 7 steps of a business case for inclusion. And when you're thinking about this, and we talk about actually that it does make business sense. And as you can see with Mint and the way that they are getting learners ready for employment, so it makes business sense because it saves on recruitment time and costs. We're actually skills matching for them. So, and we know that our learners stay in jobs longer and they take fewer days off sick, so it does make business sense. Of course, when you're talking to an employer, you can talk about actually by investing in our young our young learners, you'll have a culture difference. And when you're thinking about the environment and the positive impact that it has. It's also good for the consumer and the community. So this is definitely a business case for inclusion when you're thinking about that. And there's the financial benefits of this also when you're thinking about actually the employee with their sense of worth and feeling, with their greater sense of productivity, and then of course you're looking at no legal action as well when because you're addressing those diverse needs of your community. And of course, we know that our young people have a huge amount of talent and creativity. So you're fostering that and embracing it within the business. So that makes excellent business sense, as well as bolstering your brand and reputation within your community, which is similar to point 3. And so finally, when we're talking about a business case for inclusion, it's better for everyone, isn't it? And if you're talking to an employer, please take these away as your 7 points for inclusion, that it does make business sense with all the points that we've highlighted here. We also support our employers, and as you can see that Adam and Sheila work very hard with their employers, but where we support them with actually refining job descriptions and how to engage when you're looking at inclusive approaches, and so there is support for the employer there. There's also when we're looking at employer support in the way that we advertise, and we're supporting them to reach our talent pool because there are advantages there, as well as alternative assessment methods, i.e. job trials, work placements, task-related testing, etc., rather than sitting on a panel in an interview, which we all dread, don't we? So different kind of approaches to assessments. And of course, supporting our employers in different approaches to application forms as well, as just noted there, and the types of language when we're talking to our learners, when we're engaging with them, talking to the employer to be able to say, we want all of our staff to thrive in the roles, and how we can best support you. And of course, we say to all of our employers that you'd make reasonable adjustment for every individual. And so it's actually looking at what reasonable adjustments that can be made. So let me just take you through this section, although I think this is over to Adam and Sheila.
Thank you, Elaine. So yeah, the partnership works. So matching recruitment quickly with no recruitment costs. So we really have been running a long time. So when we're talking to employers, we've got that trust, we've got that history with them. The sectors really vary, and we've got lots of different types of sectors we work with. Historically, we were working closely with retail, and obviously retail at the moment has taken quite a hit, but we have got lots of other sectors that we've been looking at. I mean, warehousing's been another sort of popular one, finance and admin, the care sector. So we don't say to the young person, you know, we're not going to pursue that, we're always going to look at it. Even if we haven't got a go-to employer, we'll work hard towards matching that. Our bank of employers, we all manage our employers you know, individually as staff members. We get these employers to kind of also offer things other than just work experience or jobs. They can come in and they can do mock interviews. They can come in and they can do a general talk about their business and what they'd like to get from their employees. At the moment, we're picking up lots of temporary jobs at the moment with Christmas around the corner, Royal Mail, warehousing, you know, the food supermarkets, we're picking those up. So although they're not sustainable long term, they're still a really good outcome for our young people. They can update their CVs, they can get that bit of employment. And when their temporary job finishes, they continue back with Mint for that year. It's not a case of they've finished Mint. So there's current challenges mainly around offering work experience. So at the moment, we're talking to a lot of employers and they're happy to continue working with us, but the current climate, they're saying, you know, come back to us in the new year when we've got a bit more of an idea of where we're at with the whole COVID situation. working online is a really popular way that we've been working with our young people and employers as well, and that's been a change with COVID and how it's been a difference from 6 months ago. And it's about being open, as we've talked about, having that open dialogue with employers and building that trust. We use that to talk to other employers. Our in-work support lasts for 1 year. I think that's what makes us very different from other providers, is we don't just go in and see them once or twice. We do offer that for a year, and it builds up a good partnership for a long-standing sort of relationship with them. But when we talk to our sort of competitors, or we talk to our parents or our young people, I think the thing that they really sort of value about Mint is that sort of in-work support and keeping in touch with our young people. So it is a sustainable outcome, and employers like to know that we are there. We call it sometimes rapid response. So we might get a phone call when a young person's had a bit of a wobble, or there has been something that's come up. You know, over the years this has happened. We always prioritize that sort of, you know, we will get ourselves into that situation and support the young person and employer as quickly as we can to smooth that over. Thank you.
And it's not just about the employer and the young person. Of course, there's parents, support workers and care workers that play a big part in their lives. And it's important that we work with them to provide that whole holistic approach to them. We need to make sure the parents are aware. Sometimes they come off a college course, they expect us to be a course. And to say, we've mentioned 2 or 3 times now, we do need to you know, make that quite clear. We maintain contact with the carers and the support workers with the young person's permission. There's a consent form to tick. Some like to just be, you know, I make my own decisions now. Some parents and the young people might ask us with support on how to claim universal credit. We can help them to claim that, or go to the first initial meeting, or again, as at the moment they're all done via Zoom and phones calls at this moment in time. We can also provide support the parent. We don't give benefit advice. We're not benefit advisors. We can just suggest to them how they might want to do things, or where they could go to find that information. And access to work as well. We can advise them on how to claim that, what it can be claimed for, or whether it's, you know, Adam and myself have both done in-work support paid for by Access to Work, provides long-term, a bit more long-term support for a young person. But it could be providing transport, adaptive equipment. But again, that's a process which we know how to get round. It's all online. We know how to do it, and we can provide support to the parent and the young person to achieve that. So it's a holistic approach that we like to use here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we're going to move over to you. Chris is going to talk about funding and ILR data inputting, because as you can imagine, it's quite complex. And we've got Chris, our expert here. So over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Academy, Head of Registry at City College Norwich. So first of all, if we just look at the ILR and the data inputting, before you start delivering a program, it's really important that you're up to speed on where to get the latest ILR specification from, and also how to view the latest funding guidance, and make sure you understand the funding regulations for 16 to 18 study programs, and also the adult education budget. For this program, we use both funding streams. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so for ALS funding, for each student that starts on the program, we do claim ALS funding. So students are funded via the 16 to 19 funding, or via the adult education budget. Mint students have a barrier to learning, and therefore that's why we include them in the ALS claim. So for a 16 to 19 student, we claim the funding from the ESFA, so the core element 1. And then the element 2, we go to the local authority and claim traditionally what we call top-up funding. And on average, we claim an additional £1,300 to £1,400 per student. And it's really important, it's really good for us. We've got a good relationship with the local authority. They understand the Mint programme, and therefore when we do put a claim in, or we go to panel, depending what your local authority arrangements are, they understand the programme, and they know the contents and the elements of that programme. So it's quite a simple process to get them approved. Without any HCP, if they're 19 plus, then we fund them via the adult education budget. And via the adult education budget, if they have a barrier to learning, then we can claim £150 per month via the AEB. And if there are any additional costs, we can claim that via the earnings adjustment statement, which we do via the ILR. And anybody who does have an AEB contract, your MIS team or your registered team would be able to support calculating those costs and putting that claim into the ESFA. So the claims that we put in include the employment coaches, any equipment that a student might need, exams, assessments, and any overheads associated with the MINT programme. So each claim, we don't put a set claim in for a group of students saying this is what the costs are. Each claim is tailored to the individual and what their support needs are. So therefore the costs can vary per student. So this is a very individualized funding claim that we put in for the MINT programme, which sometimes can be quite different to classroom-based activity where there is a set cost and a set amount per student and a set of overheads. With MINT, it's not a study programme, it's not a course, so therefore the claim is very much tailored around the individual and what the needs of the individual are. Okay, so now talk about course funding. So courses can run up to 2 years, up to the point where the student gets sustainable paid work or an apprenticeship. Usually the length of the course is between 9 and 12 months. Each course has a non-accredited learning aim, and that is based upon 300 hours of delivery. There are different learning aims for study programs and adult students, so it's really important that when we put a student in the ILR that we ensure that we put the right learning aim and the right number of hours in. Although it is 300 hours, that is just an average, it does vary per student. All students enrolling do have a study plan, timetables, tutorials, or the one-to-ones that Adam and Sheila have discussed. And if a student doesn't have English or maths, they do enroll on English and math courses to ensure that they meet the condition of funding for ESFA funded students under the 16 to 19 study programme. So the programme is individually planned. As discussed previously, we have the workshops, we have the interventions, and therefore we don't have a shared common timetable for MINT students. Each individual has an ILP and they have an individual log of all the one-to-ones, all the workshops, all the work experience that they do. So this is quite complex to set up because it's not setting up one register. Each student has their own timetable with their own registers, and we have to evidence each hours to ensure that the funding claim is right, because it is a high risk area. So therefore we have to ensure that we are compliant with any audit. So once a student completes study programme, they've gained employment. What we have to do in the registry team, working with Adam and Sheila and the rest of the MINT team, we just have to reconcile and adjust the hours in the ILR. So we have to do that for each individual student to make sure that we claim the correct number of hours for that student's intervention. So for some students, if they've completed after 3 months, we'll only be claiming a few hours, therefore we're going to claim less funding, and our ALS costs are going to be lower. If a student's on programme for longer, then we're going to be claiming a little bit more money because the programme is larger, and also we'll claim the ALS costs throughout that programme. So it is very much tailored towards the individual. For adult students, where we're funding through the AEB, that often means that we have to change the learning aim, because the non-accredited learning aims have a hours band associated to them. So we have to ensure in the ILR that when that student completes, that we have them attached to the right learning aim, because otherwise that would be a funding error and we'll be claiming either too little or too much money. Obviously, if we're claiming too much money, that would be a funding error. The same also applies to withdrawals. If a student does withdraw from the programme, we need to do the same reconciliation and only claim the actual hours that the student was on programme for. I think it's a testament to the programme that we don't get many withdrawals. And there is an email address there if you do have any funding support queries, because it is quite a complex programme, and for some people it's difficult to interpret the funding rules and adapt them to this type of provision. But as we've demonstrated, it is possible.
Thank you, Chris. So I've got a couple of slides here on the Department of Work and Pensions and access to work. Some of you may have already seen these slides, but there is some guidance and fact sheet information here. And the diagram which is here is actually within the link up there. So for those of you that don't access funding from your local authority, where you're drawing down element 2 and element 3, then you will be using your access to work funding. This is obviously going to be advantageous as a young person moves forward and ceases with education, because they will more than likely use access to work funding. As well as the video there is also another presentation on the Centres for Excellence website. If you go there, you can access that, or I can also include it within the resources for you, because there are new processes with access to work, and then you can watch this video at your leisure. I'm going to hand over to Paula now, because she's just going to talk a little bit about our sustainable employment outcomes and Mint's next steps, aren't you, Paula?
Absolutely, absolutely. As I say, Mint started in year one was 10-11, so it feels like a lifetime away, and we got 16 young people into work. As you can see, over the years, that has increased, and it has increased beyond, I think, expectations at the beginning. Even for 1920, where half the year we were in lockdown, we've still managed to get 62 young people into employment of one form or another. And the outcomes are testament to the team. They work incredibly hard, and they work in an incredibly different way to most of my team within the college. Moving forward, we are branching out. So within Norfolk, obviously we are based in the city centre, but a couple of years ago we merged with a college in a place called North Walsham, which is out on the North Norfolk coast. This was a sixth form college, but we have placed Mint in there on a just one day a week, but this was really in conjunction with Job Centre Plus, who were contacting the team, and I know Sheila worked very closely with them to say, we have got people who would like and who need your service, but North Walsham is about a 40-minute drive away from the city centre, and actually it didn't seem right for young people to be coming into the city centre when actually where they wanted to get work was in North Norfolk. This is a cold spot, what we call a cold spot for SEND support post 18 in Norfolk, and therefore we've got classes in the college now for our SEND students, but also Mint has a presence there as well. The reputation of Mint is huge in Norfolk, Norfolk County Council, Job Centre Plus. In any of the discussions that I go to as a head of area, when they're looking at how we develop employment for people with learning needs, it almost trips off the tongue for people say, well, we know we've got Mint, and Mint does a really good job. So I think the reputation has built over those 10 years, and it really is part and parcel of what happens in the county now for people who have that barrier to employment. And as I say, we work closely with Job Centre Plus and get support that way as well. So we constantly, we're not sitting on our laurels. We are absolutely looking at what we can do next and how we can help more young people. None of this would be possible without those young people. And, I think we've got to really, really look at the feedback that we get from our from those youngsters, and you can see just a really sort of snapshot of what the learners are saying. There are hundreds of these across the years where students and young people have fed back to say how much Mint has helped them, growing confidence, developing employability skills. Confidence is huge. I think for a lot of our learners, it is that step into that adult world, and being able to have somebody there to support you in that is massive. And that is what the team are brilliant at, really, really developing that confidence in the young people so that they believe in themselves and they know they can go out and really do well. As I say, lockdown, actually, the team were incredible. Throughout lockdown, the team went online and they continued to work with the young people. And between March and July, they continued, March and August, to get 20 young people into employment. And that was at a time when nothing was open. We were all sitting at home working online. But the job coaches looked at the video conferencing instead of face-to-face. They continued to look for innovative ways to run sessions using Blackboard Collaborate, using Zoom, one-to-one sessions, and it really, really was successful. And I think at a time when employment just sort of shut down for a few months, to get 20 young people who have a barrier to employment into employment is amazing. And there is an article there that you can look at. Couple of quotes there from learners. Mint helped me hugely with my confidence and motivation and with my transition into the professional workplace. Before I came to Mint, I really didn't think I would have been able to get a job. I'd recommend Mint to anyone who's struggling to find employment. It doesn't get better than that. And looking at feedback from an interview, thanks to the work I'd done with my job coach, I had responses prepared for the questions that were being asked, and I'm definitely looking forward to starting. It's a first step for me, a job in an industry I want to work in, and that's, as I say, testament to the hard work of the team.
Thanks, Paula. So if we just, before we close, I think it will be a great opportunity to look at Mint's top tips and the guide for people joining us today. So whilst we had the project and we were fortunate to have a central location, actually we've realized that you can work out of a college site and actually deliver that quite well. So from small acorns, you can look at establishing a really good employment agency. We do know that we need the learner readiness, and Paula, you described that really well in terms of the employability plan, and I know people that are on the call today will also have that plan. So we're probably now thinking, actually, this could be our next steps because we do have that plan in place, as well as thinking about work experience and looking at innovative ways of taking that forward, even with lockdown. And we've seen just now how Mint has prevailed during these challenging times. So there are still opportunities out there, especially when you're looking at seasonal work right here, right now. What's really important is that Mint offer the 1-year pre-employment program, and as Sheila and Adam describe, it actually is a pick and mix of projects and placements to think about what that might look like. So projects and workshops in the pre-employment, and then the post-employment support. So the team will still go in and support that young person, support the employer for up to 1 year. And I'm sure if the team were really honest, if they got the call from the employer or the young person, they'd still be there 2, 3 years, 5 years down the road if that was required. It's really important that the Mint support the learner and the employer effectively, and we've heard really well and how they take that forward, and that's testament to that sustainable employment for their young person. We pride ourselves on that referral process from a professional. So we've actually got that commitment and that link. So the referral process works really well for us. And of course, the unique selling point is the recruitment matching for an employer to say, you haven't got any recruitment costs. We've actually got ready-made young people ready to go for you. And as Sheila described, this is 24/7, a rolling program throughout the year. If the team need to work on Saturday during the day, or Saturday evening or Sunday, they are there supporting the young people, and the young people are expected to work in that way as well. So it's an all year round program. And of course, whilst we target sectors for entry level work, we work at all levels, because it's about the tailored support for the young person and that recruitment matching, so we can work at all levels for any type of role. As you heard the team say, that we assign a job coach who are TSI trained, and they work with the young person on that tailored support and a program for them. And of course, you can tell from the call today, the passion and commitment for learner success is absolutely key, and testament to the success of this program, and the sustainable numbers that we've actually seen here. And the most important part is that we are proud to promote a diverse workforce, and within Norfolk committed to this, with a focus of sustainable employment. There you are, I've missed the last one. Please don't forget that I talked earlier on about the leadership discussion. If you're a line manager, senior leader or principal, and you want to talk about actually how we could implement the MINT model, or a model of your own, or when you're thinking about any kind of inclusion approach, please do get in contact with us. This is a funded provision currently through the Department for Education, so there's no cost to the individual, and a great opportunity, so do make use of that. So thank you for listening. I hope you have gained an insight into how we run our agency. We will be taking questions in just a moment, and to note that we will be sending all the resources out to you via WeTransfer, so do look out for that. And as I say, thank you very much for attending. I'll just stop the recording now so we continue with our questions. Thank you.